All right, so good evening, everyone. Indeed, my name is Merijn Dols. I'm an industrial designer and a circular economy scholar. And today I will explain why, as an activist for a positive food future, I focus on the intersection of the vision, the circular economy framework, and open innovation. I will discuss the need for a culture of innovation, and I will give my priorities to jumpstart the transition. Now, the current food system has delivered many benefits. However, there are also many drawbacks. In a recent report I co-authored with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, we found that for every dollar of revenue generated in the food industry, society actually incurs $2 in cost. One in social cost, like healthcare, and one in ecosystem cost, like soil depletion. Hence, I think it's safe to say that the food system is broken. It is simply no longer fit for purpose. Let's see if the slides move. They do. Perfect. Now, the circular economy is being adopted across industries. We see benign chemistry as a key principle being applied to body care, carpet tiles. We see light jeans and even headphones being sold as a service. However, food is lagging. Sure, we've been working to become more sustainable, reducing our impact and our footprint. So for example, in food, we see many innovators redirecting and converting byproducts and waste into new products. And this is desperately needed. Ivan talked about food waste. Karen just spoke about upcycling. As a member of the standards committee of the inaugural Upcycled Food Association, I support this movement. However, when developing such ventures, we have to ask ourselves some key questions, like Karen actually already mentioned. One is, are they inherently circular? Are they designed to resolve the underlying systemic issue? Is the impact they're having positive? Or might we be merely optimizing the depleted and in doing so perpetuating a broken system? Brownbart and McDonough put this very eloquently. Doing less harm ultimately is no good. So that's why I believe that we need to shift to a new way of thinking. And as such, I would define the circular economy of food as a food system with a positive social, ecological, and economic impact by design. Now, I would argue that this requires an alternative paradigm. So let's quickly compare and contrast the current and the circular one. Now, our current system is a linear take, make, dispose model, which is relying on a premise of infinite growth and grounded in mechanistic thinking. In such paradigm, we view the world as a machine, as a giant collection of cogs and wheels, if you will. A key driver of the required growth is efficiency, which basically means doing more of the same with less. Now, this race for efficiency, combined with this view of the world as a machine in which we maximize individual elements of the system, creates a very fragile system, a system that is prone to shock, which COVID proved all too well. In favor of efficiency, all redundancies have been designed out. Every element of the system has become highly specialized. Think about monocropping. Scales are being maximized. Think about our long supply chains. And stocks are being minimized. Think about things like just-in-time delivery. Now, in contrast, the circular food economy is a restorative economy by design. It's analogous to non-linear living systems. It's a complex adaptive system which aims for a dynamic stability achieved through effectiveness instead of efficiency. And the circular economy aims to optimize the system as a whole rather than maximizing individual elements. And it works effectively at every scale, making it resilient through its diversity. So what it does is actually it brings through its regenerative nature the economy back to its primary function, to provide social stability and keep society together, which one might argue the current economy is not doing. Now, to understand the role of innovation, we have to look at how systems change. A mechanistic linear worldview leads to cause and effect thinking, relying on, for example, inter and extrapolation. In innovation, that translates into an innovation board or committee, picking the key projects, the key innovations. And this is stemming from a belief that we can actually predict which innovations have the biggest chances of success. Now, if you look at that from a complex adaptive systems perspective, this is absolutely ludicrous because complex adaptive systems, like nature, change through emergence. These systems adapt without a central organizing agent, without management or control. They have the ability to self-organize. Now that's key because just as, let's say, mutation is the adaptive power of mankind, I would argue that innovation is the adaptive power of the food system. No one can predict which innovation or experiment will succeed. Experiments, it be mutations in humans or innovations in the food system, simply can hit one of two things. A negative feedback loop, which triggers a correction, in other words, it dies out, or a positive feedback loop that will lead to divergent behavior. In other words, the system starts to snowball. Now, to me, that is a very powerful notion. And it's a very positive realization because it means that everyone has the ability to change the system simply by starting to experiment. However, to do so, we need to shift our culture and our structure. Firstly, we need to embrace and even celebrate risk, not just success. Just think about it. Innovation is a high failure game. So would you even try to be bold, try the impossible, if all we were to celebrate is success? And then secondly, we need to be more open. We need to work together in a spirit of reciprocity. We have to shake the not invented here syndrome. And we have to move away from a transactional mindset. We need to become kind of like a nodal point in a network. And this stems from the fact that innovation occurs through the serendipitous collision of seemingly unrelated ideas. So therefore, to spur innovation, we need as many ideas to connect and collide as possible from as diverse a range of places, industries, geographies, and vantage points as possible. To have ideas come from unexpected angles, we need to be connected to as many different places and people as possible. Thus, we need to become porous. We need to be open. And this culture of innovation comes natural to innovators and entrepreneurs, but I can promise you it can be challenging for big, historically more self-reliant organizations. Now, to jumpstart that transition to a circular food system and the culture of innovation, I focus on four things: common language, metrics, design principles, and iconic examples. Firstly, to date, there is no one agreed upon definition or taxonomy for the circular economy of food. As circularity is starting to spread, common language is becoming ever more important. It's essential to ensure that we can leverage this collective power to innovate and experiment, while on the other hand side, safeguarding the essence and the positive impact of the concept, avoiding that circular economy becomes just another buzzword. And there we recently announced at the AI for Good Global Summit that we have joined with XPRIZE to develop a circular economy-based framework for a series of challenges to help meet the SDGs through this framework. Now, secondly, metrics. As the circular economy is a complex adaptive system, boundaries within such a system are arbitrary. In other words, if we are focusing only on one or two indicators like CO2 and water consumption, we might, with the best of intentions, actually have perverse and destructive effects on indicators we haven't looked at, like, let's say, biodiversity or labor risks. Hence, we need an accessible and comprehensive set of metrics that measures social and ecological impact of our food. And here we've partnered with How Good, a startup from Brooklyn, in the development of an impact assessment tool for product development, which is called Lattice. As experimentation is the adaptive power of the system, and everyone has the possibility to start experimenting, my third priority is to jumpstart a circular design guide for food, a set of simple principles that will allow us to leverage the passion and power of all those developing food, from a large CPG to a small venture, to start generating as many innovation and experiments as possible, and as such, to maximize our chances of shaping the future of the system. And here, we're working with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation to explore and develop such design principles and capture them in the design guide. And finally, fourthly, iconic examples. The circular economy is a difficult concept to grasp. It might seem audacious, dreamy, or maybe even spaced out to some. However, the iconic examples have helped make the circular economy tangible, have done an awful lot for the adoption and the acceleration of it in other industries. But these iconic examples are lacking in food, which is why we've joined forces with a group of like-minded companies and NGOs to partner with Thought for Food in launching the first ever Circular Economy of Food Challenge. And this challenge brought over 2,000 submissions from 175 countries together, which is just the start. So in summary, before my time is up, a circular economy for food requires a paradigm shift from a mechanistic to a complex adaptive, as we have to redefine the goal of the system. And innovation is the adaptive power of the system. If that's the case, then the biggest leverage point to catalyze a system level shift is at the very intersection of these two, at the intersection of the vision, the goal of the system, and the catalyst for change, innovation. However, no one can do this alone. If we want to maximize our chances of successfully changing the system and realizing our vision for a positive food future, we have to maximize the number of serendipitous collision of seemingly unrelated ideas, for which we have to embrace a culture of innovation, adopt that reciprocal mindset, and become a porous nodal point in a network. So to jumpstart that, I focus on 4 things: common language, metrics, design principles, and lastly, iconic examples. My question to you is, will you join me?